Thank you so much for organizing this, Paul. This is wonderful, and I'm so crestfallen not to have been able that we couldn't meet in person, and I can't wait to do it next year. I'll definitely be there as soon as you put it together, and it's just really moving to see so many of my former teammates and friends and heroes really here, including Professor Goodnight. It's an honor to have you here, and Dave has always made it clear to all of his students how much he admires you, and so it's really outstanding to see you and see you all. And you were asking about how a guy who was in Seattle in the early 90s ends up in Iowa City. And it has to do with Paul. Well, first of all, it has to do with my high school coach, Bob Gilmore, who Dave coached at Baylor in the 1980s, telling me all these stories about Dave Hinksman and describing him as a walking encyclopedia. And after that, we had so many examples of that all the time. And I can remember we would try to try to come up with something Dave didn't know, like say, Dave, LNG, and he'd go, liquefied natural gas. It causes disasters in the third world, but it's critical to a transition to post-fossil fuel economies or whatever, and could just go on either a short answer or a long answer, whichever one you wanted, and you could never come up with something he hadn't read. And so he got me thinking about this, and Paul, recruited me for basically the opportunity to come work with Dave and learn from Dave. And I'd also been at the Dartmouth debate workshop and in Bill Shanahan's labs, and he was sort of a huge debate influence on me at that point, and still, and in a way, Dave is kind of like the anti-Bill, with a totally different methodology of research and debate and everything, but it's a brilliant compliment. But Dave coached me with John Brody, Jeff Keeter, and Tiffany Earle when I debated there in the early 90s. He helped us invent arguments like on the trade topic, objectivism, which I now realize is a completely immoral and asinine argument, but we used it to crush a lot of great teams arguing about nuclear war. And we'd say, it doesn't matter if it doesn't conform to Ayn Rand's philosophy, it's irrelevant. Or when we're arguing critical legal studies stuff on the privacy topic with Jeff, Dave would tell us about, he was there at Harvard when these arguments were invented, and he would tell us about the authors of the articles. When I was debating with Tiffany Earle, the topic was the very salient topic of presidential powers. And I remember we used to just regularly go with Dave, Tiffany, and I to the current periodicals room of the main library and go from A to Z and find every single article relevant to the topic and photocopy it and study it. And this brings me to the main thing that I want to thank Dave for, which is really teaching me how to research, how to build an archive and a library, which kinds of things you want to acquire in hard copy and keep for continual reference, how to follow up references so that you can find the strongest argument on each side and on every issue until you reach a kind of self-referential chain so that you've got all the arguments covered, how to differentiate sort of scientific, legal, and popular sources and have a ready set of tropes to undermine any of them. I mean, all of these, this kind of wisdom that I learned from Dave, I treasure more than anything else I've learned. It's been the key to learning everything else that I've learned. And it's critical to everything I've done since then, to my my day job as a professor of philosophy. And this is what, more than any particular topic or anything, I would want to teach my students. If I could convey that spirit of inquiry and research and those kind of methods and how to do it, then I would consider myself successful and worthy of calling myself a pupil of Dr. Dave. And so For that, I want to say thank you and congratulations on your retirement. Thank you so much, Dave.